திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். புழியர்கோன் வெப்பொழித்த புகிலியர்கோன் கடல் போற்றி, ஆழிமிசை கல்முதப்பில் அணைந்த பிரான் அடி போற்றி, வாழி திருநாவலூர் வன்றொண்டர் பதம் போற்றி, ஊழிமலி திருவாத ஊரர் திருத்தாள் போற்றி. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். So today we are continuing 7.39 tiruttoṇḍattogai. We are completed the padhigam and we are now discussing the story of Sundarar. So last week when we met, we had seen Sundarar's story from his birth till the time he was accepted as slave of Shiva. That we have seen. So now we are going to continue the story from that point onwards. So in Thiruvenney nallur, Sundarar sings Pitha Parisudi Padhigam, and then he starts going to other temples. So first he returns back to Tirunavalur, his hometown, and he sang a Padhigam of the Lord there, and then he goes east. Tirunavalur is sort of, as I said, it's about 150 kilometers south of Chennai, and it's about 50 kilometers west from the coast. So from Tirunavalur he started going east along. There is a river along that river he is walking towards east, and he goes to a place called Thiruvarur, and he sings Padhigam there, and then he comes to other salams, and he comes to Thiruvenney, Veerattam. Thiruvenney, if you remember, we have seen in Thirunavukarasar's story, Thiruvenney is the town where Thirunavukarasar stayed for some time and did service and worshipped the Lord there. And so that is Thirunavukarasar's, the place where Thirunavukarasar was cured of his stomach ailment, and when he became from a Jain monk, he becomes a Thirunavukarasar, the Shaiva saint. So when Sundarar came to that place, he didn't want to step on that holy place. When you walk on the place, he says this is the town, this is the salam where Thirunavukarasar lived and did his service, and such a holy place, I'm afraid of stepping on that place. I don't want to step on that holy ground. So he worshipped the Lord of Thiruvenney from outside the town, right? Instead of walking into the town and going to the temple and doing all that, because he considered it so holy, he stayed outside, and then from there he worshipped Shiva, and then in the nearby guest house that there was there, he stayed. It's called the Siddhavada Madam. The Siddhavada Madam is where he slept the night, and he stayed for the night there, and he slept there. And as he was sleeping, it's like in those days, for travelers, the local kings would have had places where people can stay for the night, and there will be some free food, etc. Right? That kind of guest houses existed all over India in those days for people to go on pilgrimages and stay wherever they go and take care of their basic needs. And so Sundarar was staying in one of those kind of places that night outside of Thiruvenney. And as he was sleeping, he felt that somebody was kicking his head. He wakes up and finds that there's an old man sleeping nearby, and his leg was touching Sundarar's head. So Sundarar says, okay, maybe people do roll when they are sleeping, right? Some people roll over and all those things happen. So he says, okay, let me move away and sleep in a farther place. So he moves to a farther corner of the room where they were sleeping, and he goes back to sleep. And after some time he again finds somebody kicking his head, and then he wakes up and he finds that same old man. Now his leg is again on his head now. So Sundarar gets a bit upset. What is this old man doing? He says he was when I was sleeping there, he was kicking me, and now I moved far away, and he also came here and he is kicking me now. So he sort of angrily asked the old man, "Hey, old man, what are you doing here? Why do you keep kicking me? I keep move away from you, and you still move away, and you come here and also kick me. What's going on?" Then that old man says, "Don't worry, I am an old man, so I just, I don't realize what I have done." So this is something like that. Then Sundara goes back to sleep, and after some time again he finds the old man kicking. And then he wakes up and says, "Hey, old man, what's going on? You keep kicking me. What's the deal here?" And then the old man says, "Oh, you don't know me?" And then he vanishes. And only then Sundara realizes that Shiva came as an old man and put his foot on his head. And then he felt so blessed that Shiva came and put his holy feet on his head. That's one part. But at the same time, he felt so bad that he did not realize that it was Shiva at the time. So he sings a padhigam from there. Tammanai ariyada sadiyar ulare. So we didn't cover that padhigam. But basically, in that padhigam he says, "Oh Shiva, how can I not know you? What kind of a devotee am I who does not know his master? And when I was praying that you will come and put place your holy feet on my head, you come and do it, but I don't realize it, and I disparage you when you did that." And then he sings that whole padhigam, and then he starts continuing further, and then he comes to visits other temples and comes to Chidambaram. And in Chidambaram, he comes and worships the Lord there, and Nataraja Darshanam he has, and then he sings padhigams. And when the saints go to these salams, they just don't, as I have mentioned, they go spend a few days there at least. They stay and worship, and then they go to the next salam, usually. If there are smaller salams, what they do is that they stay in a central place and then do day trips to nearby, 2-3 kilometers, 4 kilometers, that kind of day trips they do to other salams. So he comes to Chidambaram and he spends there sometimes, lives, stays there for a few days and then worships there. And as he was happily worshipping Nataraja in Chidambaram, the Nataraja guides Sundara to go to Thiruvarur. What we call as Asariri, right? The heavenly voice. So Sundarar here is a heavenly voice in which Shiva directs Sundarar, "Come to Thiruvarur." So Sundarar starts his journey to Thiruvarur. So from Chidambaram you go south, you cross the Kolladam river, then you come to place Sirgari, the Sambandar's hometown. So he comes to Sirgari again. He does not enter Sirgari. Just as he did not enter Thiruvenney, he doesn't enter Sirgari town because of the holiness he associates with the place. So he stays outside, and from there he worships, and then Shiva gives him darshanam from wherever he is, and then he sings padhigams, and he visits other salams on the way, and comes to Thiruvarur. So just to give you an idea, Thiruvarur is about roughly about 300-350 kilometers south from Chennai, and it's about something like 20-25 kilometers from the coast. It's east of it is west, so it's about 25 kilometers from Nagapattinam, west from the coast. So he comes to Thiruvarur, and already Shiva has goes in the dreams of all the devotees in Thiruvarur and tell them that our Sundarar is coming, and welcome him. So when Sundarar comes to Thiruvarur, the entire town, right, all the devotees, they all come, receive him, welcome him, and then take him to the temple. And then he is staying in one of those guest houses kind of places, and he goes to worship Shiva in the Thiruvarur temple. And then he worships Shiva there in Thiruvarur temple, and then he hears Ashariri. Shiva tells him, and others can also hear, that today I am giving myself as a friend to you. So from that day, Sundarar comes to be known as Thambiran Thorar. Thambiran is Lord, Thorar is friend. So when Sundarar was made a slave of Shiva, Shiva told him that you are a rough devotee, right? You didn't want to become a devotee, you didn't want to become a slave, you used harsh words and you were fighting me. So he called him Van Tondan. One means somebody who is the rough, somebody who is the rowdy, that kind of thing. Somebody who refuses to, somebody who is, uses harsh words, those kind of things. So he gave him the name Van Tondan, the rough devotee, you can say, roughly. And now Swami tells Sundarar, today I am giving myself as a friend to you. So from that day, Sundarar is known as Shiva's friend. And so Sundarar is staying in Thiruvarur and worshipping the Swami there. One day when he was in the temple, as he was going in, he happened to see another young woman worshipping Shiva there, and Sundarar's mind instantly gets attracted to that young lady, and she looks at him, and she also feels attracted to him, and then they worship Shiva, and then she leaves the place and goes out by some entrance exit, and Sundarar is coming back and staying in one of those mandapams inside the temple, right? In the Thiruvarur temple, it's a huge temple, and there are large mandapams. They're like you have seen in temples, right? You will see something like 100-pillar hall, 1,000-pillar hall. So there's a very big hall called Devasriya Mandapam, and Sundarar is sitting there and thinking about who is this girl who attracted me. So he asks other local devotees, there was a girl who was there, who is she? And then they tell him that she is Paravai, her name is Paravai, and she is a Rudra Kannigai. Rudra Kannigai means a temple dancer. There are Devadasis, right? The Devadasis are called Rudra Kannigai. So she is one of the Devadasis, temple dancers, basically. And Sundarar feels very intense attraction to her, and so he prays to Shiva. Oh Shiva, I want to marry that girl. You should grant me that wish. And in the meantime, that Paravai, she goes to her house, and then she is thinking, her mind is always on this person who she met in the temple. So she asks her, what you can call shady in Tamil. So basically, she asks her accompanying people, her entourage. They tell her that he is Sundarar and he is friend of Shiva. So she feels that he is a great Shiva devotee. So no wonder my mind is attracted to him. And so she also is praying to Shiva. Hey, I want to marry him. Then Shiva hears both their pleas, and tells them in their dreams that they will get married, and goes in the dreams of other Brahmanas of Thiruvarur and tell them that, arrange the wedding of Sundarar and Paravai. So, as a flashback, you know that why Sundarar was born on this earth, right? In the beginning, we had this background that Sundarar was one of the Anukatondar, means a close attendant of Shiva, and he happened to look at two attendants of Parvati when they were plucking flowers in the garden, and his mind went to them. Their minds were attracted to him. So Shiva made them to be born on earth and do that, right? So that's why we said all this in the previous segment. So one of the two girls, the attendant's name in Kailasam are given as Kamalini and Aninditai. So one of them, the Kamalini, is born as Paravai here. So that's why he gets married here. Remember, Shiva stops the first wedding in the Puttur, right? Sadangi Vishwacharya's daughter, who he was to marry, Shiva stops him because he is not destined to marry that girl. He is destined to marry only these two women. So he stops that wedding, but here he arranges the wedding of Paravai. So Sundarar and Paravai they get married, and then they are happily living in Thiruvarur. So obviously you can imagine that when they are having this kind of family life, so they have a big household, they have devotees coming to see Sundarar all the time, and so they have to do the householder's duty. So they will always be, feeding people, taking care of things, and giving, gifts and all kinds of things they were doing. So one day, Sundarar was, used to go to the Thiruvarur temple daily and worship. And one day when he goes to the temple, there are a lot of devotees sitting in the Devasriya Mandapam. We have seen this story in Viranminda nAyanAr story. So when the devotees were sitting there, Sundarar usually, does his namaskaram to them and then goes further into the temple. But today he was in some thought, and he does not recognize these devotees. He does not say namaskaram to them and all that, and he just keeps walking inside the temple. And that Viranminda nAyanAr, who is sitting there, Viranmindar, is from Cheradesam. Basically what is today's Keralam, is from that part of the country, and he looks at this and says, what does he think? He may be friend of Shiva, but he doesn't know the basic etiquette of being a devotee. He ignores the other devotees. If he doesn't respect other devotees, what kind of a devotee is he? So, we should excommunicate him from the group of devotees. So he was basically angrily criticizing Sundarar. And this information comes to Sundarar when he is inside the temple. So Sundarar prays to Shiva and says, "Oh Shiva, the devotees are angry with me. What do I do? How do I placate them?" Then Shiva says, "Oh Sundara, go sing their glory. Sing the glory of devotees." And Sundarar says, I don't know the glory of devotees. I am, how will I sing? Shiva gives him the starting phrase. Tillai-vāḻ andaṇaradam adiyārkum adiyen. You start with this phrase and you will be able to sing. So Sundarar comes back to the Devasriya Mandapam, and from distance itself, from a faraway distance itself, he worships them, and then comes closer, comes to them and falls at their feet, and then he sings the tiruttoṇḍattogai, which is the padhigam that we have seen and which we have been discussing in the last many sessions. We covered the padhigam songs, and the padhigam contains names of various devotees, and he says, for every devotee I am a servant. that kind of humbleness he shows. He shows his respect to the devotees. And then, of course, Varanmandar is pacified and all the devotees are pacified. And so the Tillai-vāḻ is the most important padhigam because it gives us the history of the devotees. And in fact, Sacred in Periya Puranam tells why Sundarar was made to take birth on this earth. So Sundarar is made to take birth on this earth because he looked at those two women. But Sacred says Shiva made them look at the women, made him look at the women and made the women look at him because he wanted Sundarar to be born so that he can sing the tiruttoṇḍattogai. So Sacred puts so much emphasis on tiruttoṇḍattogai because that is the table of contents for his great work. So the tiruttoṇḍattogai he sings, and then of course he goes back to his house with Paravayar, and they have been, life goes on. And as he was living there, there was a neighboring village, Kundayur, which is probably about maybe 10-15 kilometers away. And there lived a big landlord. Is simply referred to as Kundayur Kirar. So that landlord was obviously a devotee of Sundarar. So let's say every month or every 2-3 months he will send a lot of food grains, rice and other cereal and all those other material he will send to Sundarar's house for their use, right? For them to eat as well as for them to feed others who come to visit them, etc. So there was the Kundayur Kirar's service to Sundarar, that he will supply them with food grains. So this he was doing for some time. I don't know whether it is, he must have been doing it for a year, maybe year and a half. I don't know how long he has been doing it. But now a point came when the crops had failed. Those who are in farming will know that crops may fail from time to time, either because of lack of rain or maybe pests that eat up the crops, whatever happens, right? So periodically or occasionally the crops fail, and such crop failure had occurred at that time. So he didn't have food grains to supply to Sundarar. So the Kundayur Kirar was feeling very bad. Now he says, I don't have any food grains to supply to Sundarar. This is very bad. How will I do it? What will he do? What will I do? Etc. So he was thinking and praying to Shiva. Oh Shiva, what will I do now? I don't have any harvest. So my harvest is bad. So I don't have anything to supply. I don't know what to do. So he was thinking and praying, and he fell asleep. And when he was sleeping, Shiva comes in his dream, Kundayur Kirar's dream. Remember, Kundayur Kirar is an ardent devotee of Sundarar. And Shiva comes in Kundayur Kirar's dream. He says, oh Kundayur Kirar, don't worry. Tonight we will, give you food grain for giving to Sundarar. Shiva could have simply said, hey, I have delivered food grain to, I have given food grains to Sundarar, don't worry. He didn't say that way. Because Kundayur Kirar has been doing this service, and Shiva wants to make sure that Kundayur Kirar can continue to do his service. So Shiva tells in Kundayur Kirar's dream, I will give you food grain for giving to Sundarar. And in the same night, Shiva goes in Sundarar's dream and says, oh Sundara, I have given food grains to Kundayur Kirar for your benefit. You can go and collect it from him. So next day morning, Kundayur Kirar wakes up and he comes out and he finds hills of paddy, right? not bags of paddy. He finds the whole Kundayur is filled with hills of paddy. So this much paddy has been given by Shiva for Sundarar. So Kundayur Kridar is thinking, there's so much paddy that it is not possible for me to deliver it to Sundarar. Right? I have, let's say, he may have farm hands, right? He may have 5 or 10 people or whatever is the people he has, and they can all carry, maybe he has 1 or 2 bullock carts, and he can send 5 or 10 bags of paddy in 1 bullock cart. But here it is thousands of bags, right? He has hills of paddy. How to send it? So Kundayur Kridar says, okay, it is not possible for me to deliver it. Let me go inform Sundarar that Shiva has given him this much paddy, that he has to come and take it back to Thiruvarur. So Kundayur Kridar starts walking towards Thiruvarur, and at the same time Sundarar starts walking towards Kundayur. So they both cross their paths somewhere halfway point. So Kundayur Kridar tells Sundarar, this is what has happened. Sundarar says, yeah, Shiva told me in his dream. So they both come back to Kundayur, and Sundarar sees this mountain of paddy. And then Sundarar says, oh boy, this much paddy, even I don't have people to carry it. So the only way to get it to Thiruvarur is to request Shiva. So next to Kundayur is the temple called Tirukkolili. Tirukkolili is the name of the place, and there is a Shiva temple. So he goes to the Tirukkolili Shiva temple, and Sundarar sings one wonderful padhigam, and sings the padhigam and says, oh Shiva, I got paddy by your grace in Kundayur, but I don't have any people to carry it back to Thiruvarur. So you need to help me. Please ensure that that paddy is delivered in Thiruvarur. And at the end of the padhigam, Shiva tells Sundarar that, okay, don't worry. Tonight our Bhutaganas will come and deliver the paddy in Thiruvarur. So Kundayur Kridar goes back to Kundayur, and Sundarar comes back to Thiruvarur. And during that night, the Bhutaganas of Shiva, Shiva who gave all the paddy in Kundayur, the Bhutaganas take all the paddy and transfer them to deliver them in Thiruvarur. So next day morning, Sundarar and Paravayar, they both wake up and they see outside the whole town of Thiruvarur is filled with paddy. The streets are filled with paddy, like the way we have, if you are, in the Western countries, when we have a blizzard, right? Suddenly we have 12 inches of snow or 24 inches of snow or something like that. And when we have such huge blizzard in such a short time, the whole streets are impassable, right? You can't walk, nothing can move. No cars can go, no carts can go, people can't walk. The whole place is, comes to a standstill. Like that, Thiruvarur had come to a standstill, because if you have 2 or 3 feet of paddy in all over Thiruvarur, how can anybody walk around or carts go or anybody can move around? So then Paravayar has the people, the servants of Paravayar, they engage they make an announcement throughout the town saying that everybody can take all the paddy that is outside their houses and use it for themselves. That way, even though Shiva gave all the paddy for Sundarar and Paravayar, they distributed to the whole of Thiruvarur. All of Thiruvarur, take everybody, use the paddy in front of your house. That is yours. You use it. So that way, the whole of Thiruvarur was free of hunger during that season. So when we were staying like this, there are a lot of things happen in Sundarar's life. So one day there is a place called Natiyathankudi, which is again south of Thiruvarur, and there lived a great Shiva devotee called Kotpuli. Again, he is one of the 63 nayanmars. We have seen his story earlier in this padhigam discussion. So Kotpuli nayanar comes to Thiruvarur and invites Sundarar to come to his place, Natiyathankudi. So Sundarar accepts that invitation and one day goes visits Natiyathankudi, and Kotpuli invites him, and they go to the temple, they sing padhigam, and then they go to Kotpuli's house, and then Kotpuli gives him a big feast, and all that happens. And then Kotpuli has two daughters. Their names are Vanapagai and Singadi. These are the names of two daughters of Kotpuli. And so he calls them and tells Sundarar, "Sir, these are my daughters. Please take them as your servant, so that they can be with you and serve you as servants." And then Sundarar says, no, they are like my daughters. And he makes them sit on his lap, and he hugs them, and then tells Kotpuli that they are like my daughters, so they can be with you and do that. And then of course he comes back to Thiruvarur. In fact, Sundarar, in several padhigams, in every Sundarar padhigam, in the final song, he has like a Palashruti song, right, where he says his signature, I Sundaran, his name or his description, etc. And then sang this padhigam on the Lord of this Stalam, and those who sing this padhigam will get this benefit. He mentions that in every padhigam. And in some of his padhigams, he refers to himself as Vanapagai's father or Singadi's father, meaning that he truly took them as his Manasika daughter. That's how he treated them. And anyway, so that is just information for you. So he comes back to Thiruvarur and he is living there. And in Thiruvarur, there are many major festivals. And the biggest festival of them happens in the Panguni Masam Uttara Nakshatram. The Panguni Masam is, comes in March-April period. And the Uttara Nakshatram is a major Shiva festival there. And so a lot of thousands of devotees will come from all over the region, and they will have a big festival. And obviously when all those people come, there is a lot of Annadanam and other charitable work that are done, feeding of the devotees, giving gifts to devotees, all kinds of things. A lot of expenses are there. So Sundarar, needs money to run his household and also to do this kind of dana dharma. So when he was on one of the local area visits, he goes to a place called the Thiruvenney. Thiruvenney is a big temple, which is about maybe about 20 kilometers north of Thiruvarur, and that is a salam where Thirunavukarasar merges with Shiva. We have seen that in Thirunavukarasar's story, that when Thirunavukarasar was staying in Thiruvenney, in his final days, he worships the Shiva there, sings padhigams, and finally one day he merges with Shiva in Thiruvenney. So that is that holy place. And Sundarar comes to that temple and goes into the temple and sings padhigams and all that, and then he prays, Shiva, I need some gold, please grant me some gold. But Shiva did not respond. Sometimes Shiva will immediately respond, sometimes he doesn't respond immediately. So Sundar comes out of the temple after his worship, and suddenly he feels a little bit tired, maybe late morning or maybe whatever, and he feels a bit tired. And in front of the temple there were piles of bricks that were stacked there for temple work. Maybe they were building some wall, or maybe they were building a room or whatever. So for temple related works they had stocked some bricks. And so Sundar gets a few of those bricks, 3-4 bricks. He arranges them and puts his angavastram on top of that and lies down and goes to sleep. So basically he used the bricks as his pillow. And then he sleeps, I don't know, maybe he sleeps for half an hour, 40 minutes or 1 hour, I don't know how long he slept. And then he wakes up and then takes the angavastram and wears it around him, and then looks at the bricks that he had kept as his pillow, and all those bricks had become golden bricks. The bricks, it's earthen bricks, so the bricks have become golden bricks. Only then Sundara realizes that it was Shiva's grace that instead of giving right away, he made him feel sleepy and he caused him to sleep, and then his pillow became bricks, gold. So he was so happy. So he goes inside and sings another padhigam. And this padhigam, in which he, it's a 7.34 padhigam, in which he addresses the poets. Oh poets, don't go to these stingy kings and other wealthy people hoping that they will give you gold. They are not likely to give you anything. Sing our Shiva, and Shiva will give you everything you need. He will give you gold, he will give you clothing, he will give you food, he will give you everything that you need in this world, and he will also give you everything you need in the beyond this life. So you will be in Shiva Lokam after this life. So he sings wonderful padhigam, basically as advice to the poets to not waste their time praising stingy men, but praise the bountiful Shiva, who will give everything for this life and for next. And then, he comes back to Thiruvarur and spends some time. And then again, he sets out on another pilgrimage. Remember, Sundarar, even though he is based out of Thiruvarur now, periodically he will go on temple trips. He will go and tour, go for a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever is the period, right? Because he has to walk everywhere. So he will go on temple tours in different parts of the north, south, east, etc. So once he starts from Thiruvarur and goes west along the Kaveri river. So from Thiruvarur he goes west and then comes to Thiruvenney. Thiruvenney is a major kshetram, because a lot of people know about Thiruvenney because of Tyagaraja Swamigal of Karnataka Sangeetam. But Thiruvenney is a major Shiva temple, and not only it's a major Shiva temple, around that there are within 2-3 kilometers, 4 kilometers, 5 kilometers, 7 kilometers, there are a lot of other Shiva temples along the banks of Kaveri. So he comes and sings Thiruvenney and then goes to a place called Thiruvenney. Thiruvenney is a small village now, but there's a Shiva temple where Sundarar had gone and sung padhigam, and he was spending the night in Thiruvenney. So when Sundarar was sleeping at that night, Shiva comes in his dream and says, "Oh Sundara, did you forget to think about coming to Thirumalabadi?" You know, basically he says, you didn't even think about Thirumalabadi. And he disappears. Sundarar wakes up and says, "Oh, Shiva came in my dream and asked me, did I forget to come to Thirumalabadi? So I need to go to Thirumalabadi." So from Thiruvenney, you just cross Kaveri and Kolladam river, and then on the banks of Kolladam river is Thirumalabadi temple. So it's if you walk crossing the river by boat or whatever, it is about 4 or 5 kilometers from Thiruvenney. So he goes to Thirumalabadi and he sings a wonderful padhigam, very popular padhigam. It is Ponnar Meniyane. I think it is 7.24. Ponnar Meniyane, Pulitholai Arekkasaithu, Minnal Sanjadai-mel Milirkontrai Anindavane, Manne Mamaniye Malavadiyul Manikkame, Anne Unnayallal Ini Yare Nenakkene. The padhigam, this particular song is very popular, thevaram song. So he sings that whole padhigam. He says, "Oh Lord of Thirumalabadi, oh gem in Thirumalabadi, Manikam is Manikam," right? The red gem. Because Shiva is red in color. That's one reason to call him Manikam. Also, Manikam is, always anything like a very highly valued, precious gem, Manikam. So he says, "Anne Unnayallal Ini Yare Nenakkene." "Oh Lord of Thirumalabadi, who else will I think except you?" And he sings padhigam, and then after some time he starts continuing on his Kshetradanam. So he goes west. So he comes to Thiruvannaikka. Thiruvannaikka is what we call as Thiruvannaikkaval today. It is near Tiruchirappalli. We have seen this in Kochangal nAyanAr story. That's where the spider and the elephant were worshipping. That temple is Thiruvannaikkaval, that place. Kochangal is the one who built a big temple. So Sundarar goes to the temple, worships Shiva there, spends some time, and then he continues further west. He goes to a place called Tiruppachilachiramam, which is a few, maybe about 7 or 8, 10 kilometers from Thiruvannaikkaval. Sings a padhigam, and then keeps continuing west. So he keeps continuing west along Kaveri river and comes to, the western, southwestern part of Tamil Nadu, where we have this Coimbatore area. So he comes to Coimbatore area, and next to Coimbatore there is about 7 to 10 kilometers from Coimbatore, there's a major kshetram called Perur. And he comes to Perur, and in Perur there's a wonderful Nataraja temple there. Like in Chidambaram you have Nataraja, in Perur we have a Nataraja temple, and the Nataraja is famous in Perur. So he comes to Perur and has darshanam of Shiva in dancing Shiva, and then he sings a padhigam there. Unfortunately, we don't have padhigam that he sang in Perur. We know that he went to Perur, he sang padhigam based on Periya Puranam, but we don't have that padhigam with us. And then, then he returns east, comes back, and as he comes to east, he comes to along the Kaveri river, he comes further east, and then after visiting some temples, he wants to go to Vriddhachalam. Vriddhachalam is, in Tamil, it's called Mudugundram. So, Tirumudukundram is the old Tamil name for the town. Vriddhachalam is, again, if you want to know the geographically, it is about maybe about say 250 kilometers or so south from Chennai. And so he is walking along the way towards Vriddhachalam, and maybe he wanted to go directly to Vriddhachalam, bypassing other salams in the middle. And as he was walking along, another Brahmana comes along and says, starts a conversation, and then Sundar asks him, I'm going to Vrudachalam, and he says, oh yeah, it is this way, come along, we'll go. So that Brahmana talks with Sundarar, and they both talking, and that Brahmana, because he's a local person, he's telling him this is the way to go to Vrudachalam. So as they walk along, they come to a place called tillai-vāḻ. And when they reach the place tillai-vāḻ, that Brahmana disappears. That's when Sundarar realizes that Shiva came with him as a vazhipokkar, or as a co-traveler on the path, on the way, and Shiva wanted him to sing in tillai-vāḻ, right? Otherwise Sundara was going to Vrudachalam directly, but sort of Shiva came along and created a detour on the way and brought Sundara to tillai-vāḻ and disappeared, indicating that Sundara has to sing tillai-vāḻ. So Sundara sings a padhigam in tillai-vāḻ. In that he says, oh Shiva, what a wonderful thing that you did by walking along with me in this path. I don't know why you did this. Basically, like, what a wonder it is. That kind of thing. He sings a padhigam. And then he continues to Vrudachalam. He reaches Vrudachalam, he sings padhigams. Vrudachalam is a major temple. It's a very big temple. Like you have seen Thiruvenney, right? It is as big as Thiruvenney. Very big temple. And so in Vrudachalam he sings, and then he must have requested some gold. Remember, he's he always needs money as a person who is leading a life with Paravayar, and doing a lot of taking care of a lot of guests and doing a lot of dana dharmam and all that. So he needs money. So he requests Shiva for some money, and in Vrudachalam, Shiva gives him 12,000 gold coins. It's a lot of money. So when Shiva gave him 12,000 gold coins, must be a lot of big, heavy baggage. And Sundarar says, Shiva, it's, why don't you, instead of giving me the money here, I don't need the money here. I need the money only in Thiruvarur. So why don't you just give it to me in Thiruvarur? Why do you, Oh, Shiva says, oh, is that so? You don't need it here, you only need it in Thiruvarur? Okay, no problem. So just dump this gold coins in the Manimuttar river here. There is a river that flows through Vrudachalam. So dump all these gold coins in this river here, and you can collect it in the temple tank in Thiruvarur. This is like almost like a bank. You deposit it here, and you can use the ATM in Thiruvarur and take the money out. Something like that. So he dumps the 12,000 gold coins in the Manimuttar river in Vrudachalam. Of course, Sundarar keeps one coin as a sample, and the rest he dumps. And then he sings visits other salams and returns to Thiruvarur. So when they come to Thiruvarur, Sundarar goes back to the worships Shiva in the temple, and then goes to Paravayar's house, and they're living happily. And one day Sundarar says, hey Paravai, Shiva gave me 12,000 gold coins in Vrudachalam, and I have dumped it in Manimuttar river there, and he said that I can pick it up in the temple tank here. Let's go today. Let's go pick up that gold today. So they both go to the Thiruvarur temple, worship Shiva there, and then outside the temple is a huge tank called Kamalalayam. So they come to that temple tank, And in one corner, Paravayar is standing on the steps, and Sundarar goes down the steps into the tank, and he puts his hand under the water and tries to pick up the gold. All that comes in his hand is only the earth, right? Whatever is the bottom of the temple tank, right? The mud and all that is what comes in his hand. No gold coin. He tries several times, and all he keeps getting in his hand is only mud. And the Paravayar is standing on the steps and looking at all this, and he says, she's laughing. Is there what kind of I have never heard of a person like you. Who will dump the gold in a river somewhere and look for that gold in this temple tank here? She is laughing at the steps. Sundarar feels bad. He looks at he looks at Shiva and says, "Oh Shiva, what have you done? No, my wife is mocking me. Is this how you bestow your grace on me? You have caused me to be the object of mockery by my wife." So he sings a padhigam. Ponsai the many in it. Standing in the temple tank in Thiruvarur, he sings a padhigam addressed to the Lord of Vruddhachalam, Tirumudukundram. So he says, Ensaidavar adigal adiye nittalankkalavu. Oh Lord, what have you done to get rid of my distress? And in the padhigam he documents that Paravayar is laughing at him. So he mentions all that in his padhigam. And by the time 8th or 9th song comes along, Shiva is pleased. All he wants to, he plays all this leela only to get more padhigams out of Sundarar. Then, next time when Sundarar puts his hand under the water and picks up, gold comes. So he takes out all the 12,000 gold coins. And then he compares the quality, right? What is the purity of the gold in the gold coin that he kept as a sample from Vruddhachalam and the gold that he is getting now. He finds that the gold that he is getting now is of inferior quality. Again he sinks, and with Shiva's grace they become high quality gold coin again. So this is the how Shiva plays with Sundarar, right? When Shiva gave himself as friend to Sundarar, how friends will have practical jokes, something like that. Sundarar, Shiva is playing practical jokes on Sundarar. So that's a kind of a close friendship they had. And with that, we will conclude today's session at this point, and then remaining part of Sundarar's life we will continue in the next session. Tiruchitrambalam.